Hey y'all, how are you doing? I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. I think I winked a little bit too early there. I don't know. My winks are they're getting crazy. I've been trying to control it, but I don't know. My eye has a mind of its own. Anyways, I'm here today to talk about another book that I'm reading and just my thoughts and reflections on it. So I already talked before about Feminism is for Everybody. It's my favorite Bell Hooks book, and I love Bell Hooks. I'm a Bell Hooks stan certified. And then after I read that book, I read Teaching to Transgress, another Bell Hooks book. And in that book, Bell talked about how much she loves Paulo Freire and Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And I think it's always useful to get into your faves. You know, I think that I love going to the root, or the root, as my mom would say, because I don't want to just do the shot. I don't want to do level 1. Okay. I want to do level 4. That's what I'm aiming to do. And I aim to kind of translate level 4 into stuff that everybody can have access to. So I decided to read Pedagogy of the Oppressed. And also, everybody talks about this freaking book. I don't know why it's taking me so long to even get to it, because if you are into any kind of social justice conversation, liberation conversations, progressive theology, you know, I grew up very, very religious, and once I dated a pastor, but that's a story for another day. Then they'll probably reference Freire's work. And I got into this book and I have so enjoyed it immensely. You know, let me just say this. And this is, you know, I love it. I love a tangent. We're going to go off on a tangent real fast. You know, I've done a couple of videos about pop culture recently, and people always say to me, how do you like this trash? How do you engage with this trash? This is why America is so stupid. And I always want to be like, girl, I promise you that I've read more books in the past 5 years, or honestly over my lifetime, than 99% of Americans. That you and your mama and your friends and your cousins. Okay. So that's why it's so funny to me. I guess maybe people see, I don't know, Black woman talking about Kardashians or Black woman talking about Chris Brown, and you automatically assume that I sit around all day and watch E! Girl, that's not the case. Okay. I didn't pick up these words by osmosis. Anyways, we can be well-rounded people and like lots of different things. And the reason why I can speak the way that I speak about garbage is because I be reading. Do you be reading? Anyways. And you know, as I've said before, it's a luxury. It is a luxury that I have all this time to just, you know, go over, read, pick up whatever I want to pick up every day. But back to why we're here. I thought that as I'm making my way through this book, actually, this will probably be my only video about this book, but I was so struck by chapter 2 of Pedagogy of the Oppressed, because it gets to the ethos that I approach my work with. Is that the right word? It gets to what motivates me and what drives me. And hopefully, even if I get a bigger platform or get more followers or get more viewers, that I still hold tight to that. And it's the idea that, like, I'm not here and y'all are here. You know, just because I have the YouTube channel and I have ideas and I have social media, I'm not up here and y'all are down here and I'm just speaking to you and lecturing to you and whatever. I have very strong ideas about what I think is right. I've come to these ideas generally through a lot of thinking and studying and sometimes a lot of meditation, but my ideas are not fixed, you know? I have talked before about all sorts of ideas that my mind has changed on. And I think that it is really important for us, if we're going to be conscious people in the world, thoughtful people in the world, it's really important for us to remain open and to remain vessels. And in Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Paulo Freire is critiquing the idea that our education system is built on the idea that there is a single kind of fixed knowledge, and that teachers are the arbiters of that kind of fixed knowledge, and that their responsibility is to get their students to conform to and adapt themselves to that single form of fixed knowledge. That's not the way that it works. That's not the way that a healthy education system works. And like, education, I think, is not just about what happens in classrooms. I think sometimes the work that I do is also about education. I've said before that my desire is to take all of these inputs that I've had all throughout my life, all of the knowledge, all of the education, and synthesize it into something that is accessible for a broader range of people. You know, you shouldn't have to go to an elite university to get the kind of knowledge and love of critical thinking that I have, right? It's not just about the facts that I know. I love, and we're about to get off into a little college rant, but I get pissed off about people who minimize the importance of certain kinds of educational experiences, particularly the kinds of educational experiences that you get at a liberal arts school. Most Ivies are liberal arts, because we think that the only kind of education that's valuable is that which can be used toward a vocation, that which you can use to make money. And it's like, girl, no, right? I love a trade school. My toilet is acting up right now, right? Thank God that we have people who know trades and, you know, plumbers and electricians and all that, right? A month ago, my hot water heater got set on fire. Thank God that, yes, it was on fire. That was crazy. So anyways, thank God that we have people who have that kind of specialized knowledge. And my mother studied electrical engineering in undergrad, okay? She can fix anything. But I think it is so important for us, if we are trying to build a successful society, to build a more just and more equitable world. Freire goes over this in the book. It is critical that and he calls it a problem probing education, right? That our educational experiences encourage us to not just learn facts and regurgitate 1 + 1 = 2, and you put the red wire next to the blue wire. Our education system has to encourage us to think differently. Why is it like this? Why is the world like that? Why is capitalism the way that things are organized? Why do we drive on the left side of the road, or is it the right side? I don't know, girl. I really don't be driving like that. You know, why are things the way that they are? And maybe there's a good reason for that, you know, and like everything is not broken. Okay. We don't just need to be breaking things to break them. And that's what's wrong with technology right now. The whole tech sector just went around breaking stuff just to break it. And now our entire society is about to collapse. Okay. But I do think that it is useful for us to say, maybe there's a better way. Maybe there's a different way. What's going on here? And the traditional mode of education that is only focused on helping you to find a job, and this is it's compulsory because of capitalism, but it doesn't push you toward exploring and examining deeper questions. I had 4 years of my life where I just talked around with scholars, people who had studied things for their whole lives, and we just asked questions. And yeah, they have a specialized knowledge, deep knowledge of, you know, that took them, I don't know, a decade to acquire. So I listened to them, but often like they listen to you too, or they encourage us to listen to each other. I think an undergraduate education, and you know, if you don't want to send your kids to college, don't send them. But there is no institution, there is no structure that we have right now that allows people, and most people don't get this in college, right? But still, if you get a good college experience, there is no other time in your life where, and also this is a privilege because I didn't have to work to pay tuition or whatever, where you just get to sit around with people and ask questions and talk about shit and work through shit. There's just so many times in my life I remember in college where it would be me and my best friends, my roommates. I lived with 6 other girls. It's a lot of girls. And we'd just be sitting around just like talking about stuff. You know, and I was just talking about random stuff. Color, men, romance. Barack Obama was president when I'm not that old, girl. I'm not that old. You know, politics, music, all of that stuff. Then you go into a classroom, somebody puts out a question, and then you go back and forth and you talk about it. And then somebody with more specialized knowledge than you says, let's push yourself a little bit. Let's go a little bit deeper. Most people do not get that ever again, ever in life. The most important thing that I got from my college experience, well, 2 important things, my best friends, and also that time to just be like, what is going on here? And you know, people talk about, sorry, I'm off on a rant. People kind of ridicule Black children in particular who go off to college and then become radicalized around their race. And it's not because college is the first time that they ever experience racism. And also we see this with people of other marginalized identities. A lot of women, a lot of LGBTQ folks, right? That's when they really plug into their marginalized identities. And it's not because, the college environment is so liberal and they are brainwashing your kids or whatever. It's because for most of us, that is the first time that we have ever had a learning environment, an opportunity that wasn't just fixated on learn this so you can score a 5 on the AP test. Learn this, memorize these facts so you can get a 100 on the midterm quiz. Memorize these facts so you can make a stupid project or whatever. It is the first time in our lives where we have been pushed to inquiry about ourselves, about the facts, about the books that we're reading, about our surroundings. And when you have an opportunity to really sit and think and talk to other people and get their feedback, you be like, oh, that is fucked up. It is really fucked up, you know? And I have talked about the importance of the self-recognition via my friendships. It is so important just to have that time to be with other Black girls who grew up the way that I grew up and be like, oh, when Susie said XYZ about my hair in 3rd grade, that was fucking racist. So many people are not getting that ever. And that's why we are in the place that we're at societally. Because we spend so much time just trying to make it and pay bills, and it's not necessarily your fault. Do I have crusties in my eyes? I feel like I might. Sorry, I just woke up. Sorry, gotta keep it real. It's not necessarily your fault that you didn't have that. It's not. And we know we need to make money. We gotta live around here. I get it. I really, really do. But I have a real huge problem with people minimizing that kind of experience and that kind of institution. One of the reasons why I am so pro college, you know, I love W.E.B. Du Bois, and he said in one essay, I don't remember what the essay was called because I took a whole Du Bois class, and there's one essay where he talked about the importance of a liberal arts education. And, you know, and you might not know, but anyways, the background of Du Bois was he was born in the 19th century. He was born in Massachusetts. He grew up always wanting to go to Harvard, but Harvard was like, we're not letting niggas in. Like, you're out of your fucking mind. But Du Bois was, I believe, the first Black person to get a PhD from Harvard. He went to Fisk for undergrad. And he said, y'all are, and because, you know, Du Bois had a long-term beef with Booker T. Washington, who was very much about the vocational training and whatever. And look, my father went to Tuskegee and ended up being an accountant. So I don't minimize that stuff. You know, that's a part of the reason why I get to live this life. But, you know, Booker T. Washington founded Tuskegee. Maybe you don't know. I have to put these things together for you. But I'm definitely Du Boisian in thinking. And he said, y'all are minimizing the importance of a liberal arts education. But the rich white people, the people who control your destiny, the people who you work for, are sending their kids to liberal arts schools. Okay, y'all are telling Black people that we can't spend our time sitting around and thinking about the larger questions. We can't spend our time sitting around and thinking about these philosophical ideas. You know that Du Bois was a sociologist. Some would say the founder of modern sociology, but he also had lots of strands of deep philosophical thinking throughout his work. And he was just like, y'all are telling Black people, and this is also aimed at other Black folks, right? Black people are telling Black people that their children don't need to learn arts education, that we don't need to learn philosophy, that we don't need to ask higher, deep, abstract questions. But the white folks that you're going to work for, the white folks who get into the highest elected offices in the land, who run the banks, who run our financial systems, that's where they're being educated. So why is it that a certain kind of intellectual probing is okay for one class of people? Because, you know, in the United States, race essentially constitutes a caste system. Why is it that for the elite class of people, and, you know, there's poor white people too, elite white folks get to do this, and poor Black folks say, oh, you gotta make your life learning, do it, fixing things. You can only use your hands. You can only use your body. And when your body gives out, what happens? You don't have a career. You don't have no way to make money. Because we all get older. Anyways, sorry. The point being is I loved the idea that even as I approach this work, I know a lot of stuff. I don't know everything. I make mistakes. It is really important for me as I move forward, get bigger, get more eyeballs, more patrons, to be able to say, maybe I didn't get it right. And that's hard. It's hard, particularly on the internet, because I think we assume an authority figure means that you should believe yourself to be infallible. No, we're learning together. And Freire underscores that the process of knowledge acquisition is a mutual process. You're learning from me. I'm learning from you. And I always want to make sure that as I'm doing this stuff, that I am open to learning from you, from people I've never met, commenters who I will never see. That if you throw out a random idea that chips away at something that I've said, but it's a good idea, that hopefully I will be wise enough and humble enough to say, okay, yeah, you're right. Even if it hurts my pride, even if it's embarrassing. I think that's another thing. We don't want to, I'm doing public work. So people are going to chastise me and critique me in public. Girl, I've been dragged from here to Mexico a couple times. Now, sometimes I'll just be like, girl, fuck you. Because it's unjust, okay? But sometimes people have dragged me. And in the moment, you're like, oh, whatever. But then I can take a step back sometime later, sometimes years later, and say, oh, you're right. Yeah, that was right. I was wrong there. I hope that in the process of learning more, which I'm going to be a lifelong learner, hopefully, that will also help me speed up the reaction time of being able to accept when I'm wrong. You know, so somebody on the Chris Brown video that I did pointed something out, and my first reaction was like, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, I don't know how many days I spent thinking through that idea. the ideas in that video. I spent 5 days singing through this. But like, they were actually right. And so I can't find it now because there's way too many comments on that video. But I really wanted to go back and write under that person's comment, you know what, you're right. I actually got this wrong. And in order for us collectively to get there, there has to be like, this is Freire's, his argument is we have to embrace the idea that revolt and revolution and liberation are positive things. One of the reasons why we tend to reject people who ask the probing questions and maybe who have ideas that run counter to broad-based knowledge is because we like order. People like order. We don't want our lives to be upset. And so there is an idea that consciousness raising, that asking these, the problem probing kinds of education and the problem probing kinds of thinking is going to fuck up our whole lives. It's going to ruin everything around us. Maybe, right? But he also says that most of us are not the elites, right? We are not the richest people in the world. We don't have the most power. It will dislodge things that make our lives comfortable, but it will also dislodge things that keep us in a position to be dominated, to be exploited. And that's a good thing, right? I think sometimes we get so fixated on what's lost that we don't think about what's gained. And it is in the best interest. And we see this with, I feel this way about Republicans. Republicans are very rote, by the book, don't get out of line, one foot in front of the other, don't get out of line. Did I say lined? Don't get out of line. It's one foot in front of the other. You respect the president and you respect the flag and you say the Pledge of Allegiance, and all of that kind of weird dictatorial stuff. They're into that stuff because so much of the Republican Party, it's hegemonic. The people are the most privileged. They are wealthy. They are white. They are straight, right? And they want to maintain that position. And so, there's so much shit in the Democratic Party right now. I love that this is all over the place, by the way. I love stream of consciousness. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the Democratic Party right now where it's don't snipe at other Democrats. And we need to be united. You guys, we need to be united on November 6th, 7th, 8th, 2020. I don't know what the date of the next election is. But right now, it is okay for us to have heated debates about what is right, what is healthy, what our goals and aims should be. That is what happens in a multicultural, pluralistic society. Now, we need to develop healthy mechanisms for that. But it really, and reading this Freire again, reminded me people are trying to squash dissent and squash disagreement so that the people, even in the Democratic Party, whom I will probably always vote for, the people with the most power in the party can maintain that power. Maybe that's not what's in my best interest, right? So it's as we are trying to make our way toward the 2020 election, this video is already too long. I think that we need to understand that dissent is natural and normal. And I even saw somebody on Real Time with Bill Maher saying that in the out party, which is what the Democrats are right now, dissent is fine, right? It doesn't hurt you. It really hurts you when you are in power. So as we're trying to reclaim some power, I think, let's fight. The other thing is I want to grow. I want to get better. I think that criticism and asking hard questions is how we grow. In this chapter, it's chapter 2 of the book, he talks about necrophily, which is like being stuck in a cycle of staticness, a static cycle, being stuck in a static of deadness. But like, we have to encourage growth. Growth is the only way that we get towards transformation. And so unless you think everything that's going on right now is great and perfectly good and nothing needs to change, we have to be embracing growth and transformation and a mindset that will help us to get there. I will say that as somebody who hopes to create content that facilitates growth, that means that I have to come down off my pedestal and say, we're on the same plane. We might not know the exact same amount of stuff, but I am not better than you. I am not different than you. You have the potential to be in this spot the way that I have the potential to be in your spot. So there's no reason for me to approach any interaction with arrogance. I'm a student. I'm going to be a student forever. And I just want the work that I produce and the way that I approach the work and even the way that I approach interactions with randoms on the internet to reflect the fact that we are learning together. That's all I have to say about that. Thank you guys so much for watching this rambly, random video. I will see you next time. Bye.